Good afternoon and welcome to the news. In November of 2014, there was a catastrophic collapse in the Rincon de la Garcia mine in Villanueva, Nicaragua. In this accident, 4 people died. One of those individuals was 20-year-old Victor Andreja. The accident was caused by a damaged support beam. Only a month earlier, in northern Nicaragua, 29 were trapped in a mine for several days. This was a natural disaster caused by increased rainfall, and in September, a 20-year-old gold miner died of asphyxiation. This brings up 2 important topics. First, being the terrible working conditions in these third world regions. Yes, one of these disasters was caused by a natural labor factor, yet mines should be prepared for these types of events. But the other was caused purely by neglect. In the United States, this would not have stood. In 2012, the CDC reported that 13,000 mines in the U.S., only 837 have underground operations. It's not a safe practice. The second important issue is the age demographic. The children that were killed, the people that were killed, only 20 years old. 6% of the Nicaraguan workforce is under 15 years old. Laws to prohibit child labor were not passed in this country until the 1990s and are still tightly contested by many today. Children are leaving school in their innocence to enter a workplace and support their families.
The education in the Nicaraguan village shown in the video is funded by American missionaries. Through a nonprofit called the Genesis Project, $50 can buy one child a book bag with all the necessary supplies and a uniform to go to school, which is already more than what is provided by the Nicaraguan government. Without the supplies and uniform, children cannot attend school. A study performed by UNICEF shows that in Nicaragua there is a 90% enrollment rate in primary schools. However, the enrollment rate for the first half of secondary school drops to 79%. And then to 54% in the second half. Their schooling is basic at best, but is better than the alternative, which is no schooling at all. The teacher's salary is next to nothing, but they honestly seem to do what they do out of the goodness of their heart. The only other schools in Nicaragua are private schools, most of which are also partially funded by American organizations and are also bilingual. Private schools are expensive, but provide a quality education. Needless to say, the Nicaraguan government is unconcerned when it comes to the education of the generations that will rise to be the future of their country. The healthcare system in Nicaragua is terrible in general, but the neglect of children, pregnant women, and new mothers is particularly severe. Infant mortality rates are shockingly high due to the filthy conditions in the small rural towns and villages. According to the Foundation for Sustainable Development, 55% of women living in rural areas give birth at home in unclean and unsafe environments. This, paired with the general acceptance of practices such as drinking alcohol and smoking during pregnancy, lead to sharp increases in the number of infants born with deformities and chronic illnesses. Between the years of 1998 and 1991, the Nicaraguan government cut individual health care spending from an average of $58 per person to only $17. This sharp decrease only worsened the situation, leaving a desperate populace to rely on missionaries to provide the aid they so badly need.
There is so much support that goes to this country from foreign government aid and many nonprofit organizations, it often reaches deaf ears. But what is so bizarre is Polo McCrispy. Now, McCrispy does not translate in Spanish, and seems very out of place in the area. This billboard initially looks very ominous. It is pristine, clean, and crisp, very different from the school buildings that are practically in shambles. There are more than 1,500 McDonald's locations throughout Latin and South America, but there are only 32 public hospitals in Nicaragua. One hospital can be responsible for as many as 212,000 Nicaraguans. Yet you can always head over to the local McDonald's and pick up your Polo McCrispy. McDonald's represents one of several large organizations that spend millions on advertisements, while villages can literally not afford a roof over their head. Coca-Cola, one of the largest companies in the world, harvests massive amount of sugar from plantations in El Salvador, another impoverished nation. The International Program for Elimination of Child Labor released a report that more than 7,300 children work in these plantations. It was not until after these results were published that Coca-Cola stopped abusing these plantations and started sending relief. Now, there's no way to know if the company was aware of the child labor before the report, but the sending of the funds was undoubtedly a publicized attempt to sustain their image. Nonprofits can only do so much to try and save this nation. When a nation's own government neglects hundreds of thousands of its own individual citizens, there is such a need for significant change.